is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com from the criminally underappreciated album 0 Days. That was Prong with the Whispers. And on the line right now to do a little bit of whispering about his new EP, I'm assuming anyway, is the vocalist and the guitarist of Prong. It is Mr. Tommy Victor. Tommy, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Great.
Excellent.
Excited about our new release, and thank you for your support. Thank you for playing The Whispers. That's a really good song. I really like that one.
Dude, I have to tell you, man, I thought, and I'll tell you why I think it. I think because you put out 4 records in 4 years, that 0 Days maybe got overlooked a little bit. But man, there is some of your best material that you've ever done is on that record, whether it's The Whispers or Forced into Tolerance or however it may end. I mean, it's just, it's one of those just punches right in the face, man. It's so good.
Yeah, thank you. I was listening to it yesterday, basically because I had Spotify on, and it just kept running into that record. And yeah, I mean, that one came out really good. I mean, like No Absolutes, 0 Days. We had a similar approach, and I think that carries on into the Age of Defiance. I think this record, we made a couple of improvements on this EP. I like the fact that there's only 2 songs to focus on rather than having this unbelievable task of a complete record. So I think we got 2 really strong songs coming at you on this new EP that we're putting out. So I like this new way of doing things, putting out singles and EPs, and maybe think about a record down the line. I mean, a full-length record down the line. But, you know, again, 0 Days may have gotten overlooked. I think it's just by the time of year it came out, and I think you were right. There's been too many LPs like Prong recently, so that's why the EP may create more excitement. People are going, oh, how come is that a long player?
Right.
The EP should be sufficient for this year from us, you know, to release.
Do you think that this is going to be the way that it becomes for most artists, where the days of sitting down and writing 13 songs and recording them and putting them out all in one block are just kind of ending?
I don't know. I think some bands that's perfect for. You know, I think Metallica has to put out one of those every once in a while, and you know, the bigger bands, there's going to be a lot more attention to those. But I mean, the R&B artists and more pop artists haven't really put out albums that much anymore because of streaming, and people's attention level is very small these days. I mean, who sits down and does that now? And we're all on the run so much, and we have our we have so much going on in our lives, and we're just attached to these, our smartphones, etc. Right. So we can't really sit around and listen to a full length that much. So, based on the times, I wouldn't mind putting out 3 EPs during the year, but I don't know. The fans will dictate. Sure.
For you on the. Not necessarily as a musician, but because you also are heavily involved in the production side of things, is that a little bit disappointing, though, given the audio quality that you get, streaming off of Spotify or whatever versus actually an actual product that really captures the full sound that you recorded?
That's a great question. I have to keep the engineers aware of that because there's different treatments on the mixes. I mean, a lot of times if you're playing out of like an echo unit or something that's almost like in mono now, like how do you get that sounding right? And on a phone, people play stuff on their phones, and you have to be aware of that a little bit because. I mean, if there's a huge stereo separation of everything, that has to be nominal. That has to be nominal these days. It's gone back to where you can't have these huge sounding stereo records anymore because people listen to on their phones. on the speaker on their phone. So it's a whole. That's one. I mean, a lot of guys are like, I don't care about that, but personally, I do because I know for a fact, even me, if I'm on Spotify, I'm not going to plug in my headphones all the time and hanging out with people, like, oh, listen to the new Ghost or whatever. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna listen to it on a speakerphone.
Right. And the one, you know, it's almost a catch-22 because there is that side where you're listening to it on a phone speaker that doesn't necessarily sound great, but the other side of that coin has been the fact that people are listening on smaller phones and smaller devices has almost forced that 2000 to 2010 technology of just pegging everything to go away. You just cannot put out a record anymore that's pegged.
Yeah, there's so many arguments against progress and technology, but you just can't do it. You just got to go with the times. You just got to keep moving ahead. For the amount of disadvantages, there's other advantages that have come about that I do appreciate. So, it's just that this is the way things are.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. Well, Tommy,
vinyl. People are into vinyl. Vinyl, that's a retro thing. Now, if people are going to buy new product, they seem to be centering on the vinyl now.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I was just out on a van tour for a month and a half, and it's like bringing vinyl around is just not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's
right.
Just, it's big, they break, things fall on it. People are complaining that, the edges are smashed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's not an easy medium to sell on the road.
Sure.
But, and how many record stores are there anymore? So it's bad. As far as selling physical product, very difficult these days.
It definitely is, but, and it's weird because then the record companies don't do you any justice either by, the day a record comes out, well, it's already available, all of it on YouTube or all of it on Spotify or whatever, where people have no incentive to purchase anymore.
Well, that's what our label, they're old school guys, and they didn't like the whole Spotify thing, and they were like, we're not putting it on Spotify. Like when we came out with Ruining Lives, they were adamantly against it. They wanted to wait, and but you just can't do it these days because it sort of goes hand in hand. People aren't going to know about the record unless it's on Spotify. So I don't understand the whole thing. I'm not a marketing genius. I really don't know what's going to happen because, in order for people to be attentive to the record release, it's going to have to be out there on Spotify, and then, they're just going to download it.
Mm-hmm. So,
why buy the product? But, like the hardcore fans are the ones who are going to want the vinyl and the CD and the digipack, and, we have to focus on them.
Yeah, it is weird because it does, and you brought up a great point. It seems like the industry has kind of cut out the casual fan where, I'm 51, yes. I'm 51 years old, and I was always, and you're close, I'm pretty sure you're close to age with me to where we bought records from bands that we were not necessarily like they weren't our favorite band, but we liked them. Like for me personally, I like Anthrax, but they're not like my favorite band. But I own everything that they've done because that was what we did back then. In today's world, if you just like Anthrax, you're never going to buy a record. You're just going to listen to it on YouTube or whatever. It's like they've cut that whole piece of the business away.
There's so much that's gone from that. We had when we were kids. I'm going back. The whole vibe, Chris, of the whole thing was completely different. We would run to a record store when we knew the record was coming out. We would be there like right after school, and we'd listen to that. That Black Sabbath Sabotage record a million times.
Right.
And we would sit there and listen to it like with no visual around us, just in front of a record player.
Right.
And just be like, playing air guitar and just like going crazy and learning reading the lyric sheets and, like staring at a picture of Ozzy for 5 hours or whatever. It's like, You know what I mean? Like it was just a whole different thing, and like there was no mass media about any of it. Like, I mean, later on you heard Sabbath on the radio. They played Paranoid. So way later, the Latch On metal like fans, they would, you know, they obviously Ozzy hit the mass audience, and you know, but initially no one knew who freaking Sabbath was. I mean, like you know, we get tickets. And like we go to Black Sabbath concert at the Madison Square Garden, it'd be like, you know, who were these people? Like, you know, like it was so underground, but it was big, but it was underground. But you never heard about it on television. You never heard it on the radio. It was amazing. It was so great, you know. It was a whole other culture, man. Now it's just, I mean, with the internet and again, you know, digital technology and mass media, the whole, everything is completely different. It's not the way it was. It
really is, man. I can remember going into record stores and buying records of bands I didn't even know, but
you didn't know who they were.
No, but like I would look on the back and I'd see like a producer's name that I knew from another record that I had. I was like, well, if he's doing these guys, they must be good too. So, you know, we learned, you know, it's weird that the technology that shares more information has actually made it so that we know less about records. I mean, I can't tell you who produces anything anymore.
I know. We've gotten really spoiled. I mean, we don't, like, you know, go on Spotify, and they do have a list of producer, like, credits. I don't know who looks on the credits, but, you know, a lot of them are blank. They don't even submit that information anymore. It's like, you know, the songwriters are there, but now they're trying to get producers are supposed to get like a percentage of that streaming now. So they fought for that, but a lot of them aren't even listed. They're not even submitted. No, I mean, all that information is gone. I mean, no one cares about who plays for who or who did that. You know, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, and I'm still in that mode. It's like I was listening to, this is really dating me, but I was like yesterday I was listening to like old Jeff Beck records on Spotify. I was like, who played bass on this one? Right. And then I have to go and try to figure that out. I mean, you can go on you know, on your phone and figure it out now. I mean, years ago you'd be digging through the actual vinyl and looking at the, you know, the credits on the record. So you would see the producer, you would see what studio it was recorded at. You know, you would look at the lyrics. The whole thing was there. It was great.
Yeah, it was, man. It's a different.
No one cares anymore. Yeah. You know, no one. We live in a very, in a
sterile culture.
I don't know. A more cynical era in a lot of ways.
No, you're 100% right, man. And you know, I hate to say it, but it's our own fault because our generation. You know, those of us that have kids, we didn't teach our kids to love and appreciate music the way we did. I mean, music was, dude, I mean, I can't go a day, even now, I cannot go a day without listening to like 2 hours of music, minimum. I just can't, I cannot do it. And the kids.
People still do that. I mean, go walk around, like go to the gym. Everyone's got their headphones on. What are they listening? I mean, I know a lot of people listening to podcasts these days, but. You know, they're just listening to playlists on Spotify, and they have no idea what the hell the artists are.
Right. They're listening to noise. They're listening to noise where we listen to artists.
Well, there was we used to laugh at elevator music when we were kids. Like, we go in an elevator, you hear Montavani or Pat Boone or something, and you'd be like, you know, what the hell is this stuff? And now everything is elevator music.
Right. Dude, so
you know, we like to select what we want. I mean, I was interested in what you were saying about, you know, there's a place in Manhattan called Bleecker Bob's. And I mean, like, if it wasn't for Bleecker Bob's, like, Prong would not even exist because, like, we put out our own first EP, Primitive Origins, and one of the guy, they had it up on there, like local band, new releases. We sold 3,000 of those vinyls just out of Bleecker Bob's alone.
Wow.
In Manhattan. And then it was like, you know, it was just because they played the record. People had it up there like, oh man, Prong, yeah, it's a new band from New York. Like, it would just spurn so much interest because of that. You know,
Right.
just from that one record store. Then, you know, we'd sell another 500 from, you know, like St. Mark Sounds. And then, like, locally, just in Manhattan, we were selling, you know, thousands of records.
Right.
It's amazing to think of that now. You're lucky on a whole worldwide you sell 10,000 records. You're, like, counting your blessings.
Right. Yeah, you sell 10,000 and you're on Billboard now. It's crazy.
Totally.
It's definitely nuts, man. Well, I don't want to turn this into a whole history lesson without talking about the EP itself, man, which is a very strong EP, man. It's a great listen. It's a quick listen, and it does, for me as a fan of Prong, it does what I need it to do. It gives me a taste of where you're going next, but at the same time, it also gives me a nice chunk of live music that I just didn't have before to remind me how good the band is live.
Oh, thank you, man. I mean, that was the idea of it. So, I mean, mission accomplished because, you know, we didn't want to go crazy like you were saying. Like, I mean, how many long LPs is Prong going to make in the last 6 years? We keep churning them out. And, you know, like I said, like 0 days is just like we needed to take a break from that. And it's not like I didn't have the material because I went back and went into my Dropbox and, you know, there was a lot of songs written. And like these were the title track, "AGE of Defiance" was the one that we decided to go with to record for the EP. And then I completely wrote the "End of Sanity" for this record, like a brand new one. So that's the last song I wrote, and that's a new song that was on there. And that's the same thing would happen with "Another Worldly Device" on the Cleansing record, which is the first song on our best-selling Cleansing record, and that's the live version of that is on the EP as well, where that was the last song written for that. Like, so I like to have, like, you know, on each record, the last song written, and just like, even if it's not perfect, just to go with it and throw it on there. And it usually works out pretty well, you know. It's like, so "End of Sanity" is a brand new Prong track, and then "AGE of Defiance" was from the demos that was supposed to be, you know, a full-length record that we decided against. Maybe some of those songs would be re-recorded for the next full-length album if that happens.
Sure. Now, the one thing, you know, talking about producers that nobody knows about, you guys have definitely become, you know, almost a kindred spirit with Chris Collier. You've worked with him, the last 3 or 4 records, you know.
Right.
What is it that he brings that, you know, especially with you being a producer yourself, what is it that he brings that you couldn't do yourself?
His guitar tracking, right off the top of my head, I mean, he's got a lot of talents, but I mean, his guitar tracking is amazing, and that's really what he's renowned for these days, because like on the last several Korn records, he's been producing or engineering all the guitar tracks on that. And, you know, he's with KXM, he's done that. He's done a couple other things here and there. And, you know, he's a great guitar player. He's got a lot of good ideas. He's an amazing engineer. And that's why, you know, like we sit there together and we make a lot of decisions together. So that's what constitutes the co-production of the records. But, you know, I would recommend him to completely produce a record on his own, apart from Prong, to anybody. I mean, he's that good. He's become, like, you know, he's top notch. So, you know, I just have a lot of faith in him. I know he knows what he's talking about. And, you know, his personality has a lot to do with it, too. Like, you know, we get in there, we do the work. There's not a lot of fooling around. Like, you know, I come from the era where there was a lot of fooling around going into the studio. Like, everyone thought there was like a big party or something. Like, right. And you know, we wasted a lot of time and money and energy doing that for a lot of the records. You know, so you know, it's great that you know, today we have a schedule. We sit to it. We know what we're going to do throughout the week. Everything's planned and knocked out, and you know, we don't kill each other. You kill it, you know, but doing it as well. So, you know, having a system and a guy that's, you know, conservative is really good to work with these days. No doubt. And obviously, Aaron returned to the band after going away for a little bit. You know, how did he end up back? And you know, why do you think he'll be back for a while this time? Well, Art Cruz got picked up by Lamb of God, right. And the scheduling on that got really crazy. Like where, Art said he was going to do this tour and another tour. And then like at the last minute, he had to bail because Lamb of God called him to do like, something. So, he's full in Lamb of God now. So, the first guy that came to mind, not having Art Cruz was Aaron Rossi. And Aaron, as it turned out, wasn't really doing anything. So, he's back in and, he's been killing it. So, that's been fantastic.
No doubt. Is that difficult to bring somebody back because, the reason they left
not
before
in
is
Aaron,
still there?
Not really with Aaron because, he was always so solid as it was, it wasn't, it was like, it's really a no-brainer really with him, It's like the same would be with Alexi Rodriguez where, if we brought him back, he would be the same as well because, we know he's good and we know we could do it. So, that's just the way it is.
No doubt. Well, Tommy, most people, and you can disagree with me on this, but I think I'm probably right here. Most people know Prong from Cleansing, I guess, from Snap Your Finger, Snap Your Neck. It seems like that's where most people know the band. For me personally, as somebody that's listened, that has every single release, I think that you guys have had your strongest period almost in the second half of your career, from Scorpio Rising through now. I think is by far your best work. I think you guys have, especially you have matured as a songwriter and a singer and a player. Is that frustrating for you when people reference back to something 25 years ago where, yeah, it's a cool song and, obviously it's a great song, but they just didn't grow with you along the way?
No, I don't get frustrated with that at all. I mean,
Okay.
Cleansing was such a breakthrough record on so many fronts where we took the right chances at the right time. And that just paved way for so many other bands and, like a whole other genre of music almost. So, I'm very proud of that. And,
Sure.
That song is still to this day, it's on numerous playlists all over the place. And it's just, it's a powerhouse song. That record in its entirety, there's a lot of kooky things on the Cleansing record. Right. But we took a lot of chances back in those days, and some of them were hit and some of them were missed. So, that record, there's a good amount of hits on that record.
Sure.
But I was listening to Beg to Differ a little bit recently. I'm like, I was essentially like a baby then, and it was like, it sounds like I'm a baby.
Right.
But that's what's fun about it. It's like, you have those old records and it's like, Jesus, I didn't I was really good on one stand. On the other hand, it was just like, I just know how immature I was at that point. So, we got lucky here and there, and we got, some things weren't that lucky. It's just the way it is, The later records, of course, I mean, you make 10 records, by the, after a while, certain things not to do. Like, for example, like the Rude Awakening record, I thought that we overworked a lot of stuff, and like, I won't do that again. Like, right. I won't, it gets to a certain point with a song and I'm not going to rearrange it and do this anymore because, I know that we destroyed a couple of really good songs on that record by overworking it and questioning everything. So, that's just an example of, when you get mature, you tend to know what to do and what not to do. And then I mentioned earlier, years ago, we go in the studio and get a freaking, a bunch of, a bunch of bottles of whiskey and,
right.
Smoking cigarettes all day long and shit like that. It's like, that doesn't go down anymore.
Right.
It's not the 90s anymore.
No question, man. Well, Tommy, the new release, it's an EP. It is Prong. Why don't you tell us where people can follow along and get the EP and, find out where Prong's going to be and all that good stuff?
Well, we have our main website, which is called prongmusic.com, and there's a bunch of merch up there. There's a bunch of paintings I've done, which are selling like crazy. And then there's obviously our T-shirts, and then there's a link to the pre-order of Steamhammer,
right,
who's our record label, and then also Prong the Band on Instagram. There's links up there, and then Prong Music on Facebook. So either one of those sources could direct you to pre-order the record. And then, you can check out End of Sanity on Spotify. It's up there right now. So just search Prong and you'll find our new single, which is up there. So,
very good.
And then I'm always available via instant message if you want to talk to me. Sometimes I answer.
Nice. Very good, man. Well, Tommy, why don't you pick one of the songs from the EP? Maybe tell us a quick story about it to wrap the interview up with.
Well, Age of Defiance is, like I mentioned, that was from a batch of demos I did last year, and it's played with a 7-string guitar, and the lyric is about a cure for problems of today, which is just like focusing on yourself, and everyone else can sort of like go to hell, and who cares? So
right.
That's what the lyric is about, and I'm really happy with the way that came out. It's a good new Prong anthem.
Nice.
So Age of Defiance.
All right, well, let's check it out right now. It is Prong. It's Age of Defiance right here on your Classic Metal Show.